Right, I need to do more of these more often to practice and to solidify these kinds of mindsets, not even mindsets, mind frames about the world. Because I read a lot, but I don't retain that much. So I should be doing stuff that helps me retain knowledge. Anyways, I think, I don't know why the last one didn't upload, but this will be part 2 of Crushing the Game 5. And maybe I'll jump back and forth and whatever. But oh, excuse me. No, I'll just start at the top. And at the top it says how to reliably be in the top 10% of whatever niche, topic, or category you pick. My case is CEO of a website marketing, internet marketing, SEO, SEM, social media company. And so there's a couple of questions that I want to go through. One is, when is the only time feelings don't matter? Second is, when is the only time default doesn't matter? The way that your brain works automatically without you thinking or trying. And when do we not need to be realistic about our goals? So this is a whole this is a whole thing with feeling versus logic, because a lot of the times feelings and logic don't necessarily match. A lot of times we feel like something is so correct and so right, but it just doesn't work. So feelings matter greatly, especially with defaults. So feelings matter in the sense that the feeling that you get is you get a sense of your feeling based on your defaults. So it's great for knowing what your defaults are, but not for knowing what actual truth is, because you basically you think that your defaults are truth. So whatever your defaults are thinking, you automatically think that that is the truth. So our brain cannot know whether our defaults are truth or not. That's more of a conscious thing that we have to do, and we can't ignore alternative use. Wrote that as well. Our job is to look for alternative use. So our brains slash our mind, right now I'm going to use them alternatively, fabricate certainty. So what that means is we take defaults, or we take things and we make them real ourselves, and we fabricate it. It doesn't mean that they actually are certainty, it doesn't mean that they actually are truth, it just means that we make it so. So we want to learn how to take advantage of this, of how our brains fabricate certainty, because our brains do this automatically, so it doesn't make sense that we fight against it. It's more like jujitsu. You want to use the opponent to its advantage. If we get that on our side, we can make a lot of impact and progress a lot more. So we want to learn how to harness these emotions and feelings, not take a step back, not meditate and just watch it go by, because these will be tools that we use. So we're restricted to a limited number of choices because we're simply not aware of anything. Feelings help bring awareness to situations. So the fact that you feel sad about a situation brings that into awareness. And so we need to learn how to use emotions, and one way that helps is by using contrast. Contrasting what's right and what's wrong, or contrasting a scenario against a different scenario. If we want to go from one port to another port, and this is an analogy, if you have a sailboat and you want to go from one place to another place, we need to know the reasons of getting to the port. not necessarily all the currents or the defaults that act on us on our way towards the goal. We want our feelings to match what we do. So this goes back to the first question: when is the only time feelings don't matter? So we need to have a way of thinking about something logically with only intellect. So quarantining that and thinking about the best case scenario or the ideal scenario, but only using that as a foothold, as a starting block. Then what you get with feelings is you get to understand your defaults and understanding, or see it reveals stuff to you basically. And so we start off with figuring out what's true through a method. It doesn't necessarily pass your default feeling or the feeling that it's right, but it passes the method. And if we do figure out the right habits and defaults, you may not feel it right away. You might not feel that it's right because it's just not something that's built into your head. When you have a default or a habit in your head, it's a lot harder to get that habit or that feeling out, just as hard as it is to get a habit in. So to develop the right way of feeling whether something is right or not is hard. So we need to create a space in our mind where emotions and feelings won't affect our ideal situation. Won't affect it. Like if we think of an ideal situation that we want, we don't want our emotions and feelings affecting it because we know in that quarantine space that is correct. So defaults don't matter when you're trying to figure out what defaults to have or how things should be. You don't want defaults acting on your end goal. The only time defaults matter is when you're actually moving down that path towards that goal. So think about defaults of basically the end goals you want, the end results. You want to be able to quarantine the ideas, whether it's money or dating or whatever. And these don't get it, and you don't want these to be affected by your experiences, your reality at the time. If it does look like it will help or it looks right, you act on it. And this is a side note, I think hobbies can be crucial, and if you develop really good hobbies that you align with and you enjoy, then everything else can fall into place. I think a lot of people misweigh the importance of having a hobby. So you can go with what feels right, and a belief is just, or something you believe in. A belief is just something you act on, but belief does not mean that it's true. There's basically no correlation between belief and truth. Belief means that you act on it because you believe. You can believe something to be true, but you can't believe it's true. You can know it's true, but that requires a method. And belief is when your brain is operating in the gray area. It believes in something, so it acts on it. And since our brain and minds are made to operate in the gray, our brain is good at operating it. So we just need to set ourselves up for success in this area. In previous videos, you want to chop away as many black and white stuff, or whatever, vice versa, and leave the white. You build the white, you drop off the black, and you try and minimize the gray for your brain to work. So some people, so this is the same with people, you want to set them up for success, but you don't interfere with them. So that's, I don't know what else to say about that, but it makes sense in my head. Like, you don't want to overmanage someone, but you want to set them up for success. So the other person is out of control. So what you want, the other person is out of your control. So you can't control them, but you want to set them up in a way where they're going to be successful, or they're going to be happy, or and just let them be themselves, but have it so that them being themselves is a success. So our brains will always work on defaults. And ideals are something that can be maxed. And you want to do a simple check. For example, with money, you can't just say I want unlimited money. And why is that? Because I want to buy anything I want. Well, that's not an ideal, because as soon as you do some simple checks, that doesn't hold true. It doesn't. If you just decide one day to want to buy a spaceship to go to Mars, or you will decide to buy 10 people to do your whatever you want, or you decide to buy all the houses in America, you just can't do it. There's no physical way anyone can ever do that. You can figure out the ideal amount of money you have for the optimal life, but you can't max it out. So that's not an ideal. An ideal would be picturing the ideal body that you have, or picturing the perfect, like the amount of money that would satisfy what you want. And it's not that you want to be able to buy anything you want. That's not an ideal. So any justification or realizing you should be able to that you should be able to max out an ideal, which means you should be able to reach the top of that ideal. So you can't just be super rich. You can't buy whatever you want, and it's basically always has to be true to be a premise if you want to hold that to it. And then this is the last point. He goes on to talking about the Bible. So if the Bible has to be in a language and you have to read and interpret it, then it doesn't impose perfect truth on you. It's imperfect in the sense that even if it was perfect, you have to read it and you have to perfectly interpret it. You can't perfectly interpret it. So your interpretations may not be so accurate. And keep in mind, the Bible has been translated, transcribed, passed down generation to generation, and written by humans under the guidance of God. But that still leaves a lot up for it. So that's basically what I have for now, and talk to you later.